in
there
the
we
tiny
go.
little black bag that Roy can't get his hands in.
Yes, I can't get my hand in this.
Now the mouse is in my way, and I need to type.
I think I did that one before. Or the other day. See if I can get in the magic bag of tricks. See, I cannot get. I don't know how you to get that. Well, this is a different one, I think.
Yeah.
Of that, maybe.
Oh, this is my favorite one.
Oh, got the fave.
Not docking the one you got me for my birthday, but it's the Neutrogena. I know, the Neutrogena Hydro Boost in Ballet Pink. I love it. It's my favorite. Really.
So that's where I screwed up. I got raspberry instead of Ballet
You
Pink.
got vibrant raspberry, but you know what? It's good because you got to try new stuff, and if you don't buy it for yourself, somebody else will. So I appreciate it. I wear it. It's good fall color. I'm like one of those anal people where like certain shoes and like colors go with certain seasons. Why are you laughing at me? Anyways, national days. Today, guess how many national days there are today? Just today.
Just today, 8.
Just today. 13.
Wow.
I know. So how does one pick one?
Because
Anyways,
because that's the rule.
Evil. So I'm going
Which you
with
break routinely, so.
You know what? I mean, there's a lot of great ones to choose from, like National Vote Registration Day or National Autumn Equinox Day. But I'm going to go with, or National Legwear Day, but I'm going to go with National Girls Night.
Well, that's a good one.
But it's the first day of fall, so that's awesome.
Yes.
I had to throw it out
You're
there.
right. Yeah, September 22nd.
Or National White Chocolate Day. But, you know, I want to give a special shout-out for tomorrow, because tomorrow's National Day is my bestie's birthday. So happy birthday, Michelle. I love you. And that's it.
The reason I get it 1 is because you stop at like 6. Because if I didn't limit it to
13.
1, we would have got 13 and probably added 2 or 3 to it. Why
Ones
isn't
I
it,
made up?
Yeah, why isn't it why isn't National Aloysius Day or something? You know?
Aloysius. That sounds interesting. Anyways, happy National Days, happy Girls Night, and happy birthday, my Michelle. We love you. Tell Michelle happy birthday.
Happy birthday. I thought it was tomorrow.
It is, but we're giving her an early happy birthday.
Well, are we going to do it again tomorrow, or are we going to slide by it?
It's National Days. All right, we'll give you another happy birthday tomorrow.
National Michelle Day, huh?
It should be. All right.
Have a great day tomorrow, Michelle. Maybe you might get a mention tomorrow too.
Well, in case I forget, I'm just gonna send
You're
her
covering
this.
your
I'm gonna
bases.
send her this clip.
Look at,
See, I wish you had
I
birthday.
got
You
it
didn't
on
even
there.
watch it.
Yeah, what are you bitching about?
Exactly. Now you blew my cover and said it's tomorrow. See, I was setting myself up for failure before failing. That's success.
Wow.
It is.
There's that blowing your eardrums, funky slide guitar music.
My bad.
That comes on and that takes a lot for me. When it gets my attention, you know it was turned up way loud. As we do, we come to you every Monday through Friday live at 5 on Newswire on Facebook and the aforementioned YouTube on that. And like I say, I think the best. You know, y'all are missing out. You ought to go back and look on Newswire on YouTube and go do yourself a favor and watch the first 2 or 3 or 4 minutes we do on that. I think it's definitely different, and I think some of our best segments we ever do, and most y'all don't watch it, which is kind of a crying shame.
And make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and share it too, because today was a good one.
Yes. Of that. And
typing.
yeah, definitely. It's definitely a different vibe and experience from what we usually do in the regular hour, like we're on now. We will have Dr. Kelly Victory on at the bottom of the hour. In a minute, we're going to discuss the much-anticipated advanced reopening of Riverside County and tell you how that went today. And you're going to get a lot of joy from me today. And that's me. I'm trying to be. I'm trying to set this up.
He's trying to calm himself down before he implodes.
Hey, you're reading me like a book.
Not one I want to keep picking up.
Yeah, pretty soon you'll be wanting to burn this book too, also. But
Oh, I already did. I did a long time ago. But it's fine. We won't get into that.
Want to start out today though with a very important deal that happened today. Charles Morton was a firefighter up in Big Bear, was a native of San Diego. He was escorted from Riverside down to Orange County on the deal. Give her a little bit more of the bio while
He was 39 years old. He was a squad boss. He also served for 14 years in the Forest Service. He is survived by his wife, his daughter, his parents, as well as his 2 brothers.
There you see him. I think that's over the 91 freeway. You're seeing the firefighters giving him the salute on his final journey home, as they have that with the ladder truck, with the American flag appropriately flying between the 2 ladder trucks, and they're doing the salute as the procession for Charles Morton goes by. It's always a tragedy that goes on anytime somebody loses their life. But like in this case, and we have explained, and maybe we'll have Jim Riley on, who lost some of his buildings and stuff in the El Dorado fire and stuff like that. And we've had him on, and Lord knows you're probably ready to hang yourself of the times I bring this stuff up. You know, not the fire, you know, there's always going to be fires, but in most cases, these large fires could have been prevented, or if they started, would not turn into the tens of thousands of acre blazes they do. And the amount of life and property destruction, but we can always, you know, if it burns down a house or a building or something, we can, even the trees or whatever, we can always replant or rebuild or that. You cannot replace a life.
Exactly.
And that's what's so disheartening about this. I want to flip this on just for that. I guess Trump's having a rally right now, so we're just going to play a little bit of it.
They were accidentally wiped clean. 31 different phones. I think it was like, she took cameras and she beat the hell out of them with a hammer.
What did he say?
And then threw them away. And they found a couple of them. They were not in a pretty, she was very angry, obviously, if she did the hammer work. But if anyone else did this, see, there's a protection. There's a dual level of justice. But we're getting down to the bottom of it because it's not fair to us. Not fair to us. She deleted them on the basis, 33,000 emails. She deleted them on the basis that it was all about her daughter's wedding, Chelsea, and also yoga classes, right? 33,000 emails on yoga and a wedding. I don't think so. And Comey said, oh, that's okay. That sounds like a good reason. That's Comey. That's another beauty right there, that Comey. Well, we caught him. We caught him. Very smart move. Getting rid of that guy was a smart move. But we caught him. Listen, we caught him. They were spying on the campaign. They were doing actually worse than that, but nobody's ever done a thing like this. So let's see what happens. But we caught them cold. We got so much stuff. Remember the insurance policy, right? From Strzok and Page, 2 lovers. You know, they were...
There you go. There's a little bit of the... Now, that's Trump being Trump. And that's what got him elected, and I'm glad he's back to doing... back to his personality. You know, that's what people... You know, that's what the people who support Trump want to see, and that's what I think they like about Trump is, you know, he cuts it. He tells it like it is.
Right.
You might not like it. You might like it. You might not like it, but he tells it the way he sees it. And like I've said, hands down, bottom line, of the 45 presidents of the United States, he is the most entertaining president we have ever had.
Definitely is. You know, you bring up a good point with that. I don't think he ever has a dull moment.
Yes, no, of that. I mean, you know, and that's what made him. You know, that was what, you know, and all the things, not just being president,
Right.
But that's what made him where he is. Doing that. And the reason I brought that up was because we do have one stand-up guy at the Riverside County Board of Supervisors, Jeff Hewitt. And today he put on a proposal to expand reopening Riverside County. Not doing a Roy, which was, and my philosophy is I would have Sheriff Chad Bianco deputize all 2.5 million of us. I would tell Newsom to go blank off, and I would say you don't need no stinking licenses to come into Riverside County. And if you think you're going to come in here with your goon squads of regulatory agencies or Highway Patrol or National Guard, you're going to have to come through all 2.5 million of us. So screw off.
They're not doing that though, right?
Of course not.
Okay.
They don't.
No, I mean coming in with all their.
No, they have been doing that. They've been harassing. They've been threatening businesses if you don't comply.
No, I know that, but they're not bringing in like the heavy guns and stuff, right? Make me nervous.
Not yet, because people have acquiesced.
But
on
they
it.
talked about it though, didn't they?
That's why I say. But most of, this is Roy's philosophy or Royism 101. Most people think they are badass. Very few are.
I am.
Of that. Very few people will stand up there and call out, the cops and the firefighters supporting and the teachers unions and everything else on that. And, someday we'll get into the stories of all the inside baseball stuff on this stuff, and some of it even happened today of that. But most people when it comes to nut cutting time will back up and abandon principles 100% or run, or they'll tell you to go out in the middle of the lion's den. Oh yeah, we'll support you. And then when you're standing out in the middle of the lion's den, they release the lions. They're all up in the stands saying, "Yeah, I hope," and they'll be cheering for the lion while he's eating you for lunch. That's how most people are. So
No.
So we had the meeting. Jeff Hewitt put it on the agenda, item 318. On the agenda. So we start off. Most of you that are probably not familiar with public meetings, but you have public comment. You can comment on non-agenda items at anything under the jurisdiction of the county, and then the agenda items, yada, yada, yada. So Manny Perez was allowing people to comment on agenda item 318, on the non-agenda item comments and stuff. But at least Ali Missouri, who's running for Assembly 61st District, and myself, did not comment on those. So about 30 minutes into the meeting, Manny Perez, who does not support this and did not support the motion and has his nose up Gavin Newsom's rear end, stops the meeting because he's having a hissy fit because everybody's coming up there saying opening up the county and all that. So he stops the meeting for over a half hour. I asked Karen Spiegel, who was sitting there, I said, do you guys have the power? Under the state constitution, 3 supervisors can overrule any action that the chair of the meeting, which is Manny Perez, is doing and stop this nonsense. Or start the meeting again. If Manny doesn't want to participate, that's his problem. Well, I got back kind of a weaselly answer of, well, I checked, and it's our policy that we added onto that, and the chair runs the meeting. So it got to that, and I brought it up in my non-agenda comments, and I called out Manny Perez. And I said, what went on here is unconscionable, and we have a dictator on that, and if this is the case, I said, the Board of Supervisors need to correct this today. So Manny Perez says, okay, or this is what, so it gets to the 1:40 break. And I ask, well, I've seen, how do you do the speakers on 318? Because I've seen a lot of people that I know signed up after I spoke, or after I signed up, and are speaking, and that, where am I on the list? Oh, you're number about 30. I said, how the hell did that happen? Oh, the chairman said, anybody that spoke on non-agenda items, because they mostly spoke on COVID, are going to the back of the line. I said, well, I did not. I know Allie did not. And I said, I've got to go. I can't sit around here and wait till 3:30, 4 o'clock. And it was about 3:10 when Allie got to speak, and we were about at the same spot. He made us wait. he did that, I believe, and he has every right to come on here and counter it, but I want to hear his excuse of why he did this. I say he did it just to punish me because I called his butt out for the hypocrisy, the dictatorship, and the all-around sissiness of holding a hissy fit on there just because the speakers were coming up saying stuff like you did. And they heard the testimony. One lady said, she reiterated the story of a firefighter that told her not one but two teenagers, they got on a call that had hung themselves. One business owner at Lake Paris that has a business out at Lake Paris Fairgrounds said one of his employees jumped off a bridge over this. And the compelling stories that everybody told, and it went on for the public testimony, went on other than the breaks for 6 hours because it was about 10, well, more than that. I'm going to say, yeah, from about 10 to 3, 5 hours. About 5 hours of testimony with maybe an hour's, less than an hour's worth of break. So 4 solid hours at 2 minutes to speak of that. What's that, 204? Probably over 100 speakers, easy, of that. I called in, and after I got here at about 3 o'clock and the meeting was still going on, I called and I got a hold of them and I said, can I do my 318 2 minutes by phone? I was told no, because you didn't register. I said, I signed up down there. I said, I couldn't stand around and wait. I'm calling in, and I was denied again access to speak on agenda item 318 at the Riverside County Board of Supervisors. There may be one person who was there and signed up who did get a call back. So why the dual standard, Manny Perez, clerk of the board, or whatever's going on here? Not on top of that, the other 4 whiffed. They melted faster, folded up faster than a $3.10. Jeff Hewitt's motion was not as I would have done it. I would have, as I explained earlier, it was to speed the process up. The other 4 were, oh my gosh, Gavin Newsom might be upset with us. Oh,
Don't do the voice.
oh,
Don't do the voice.
this is
I will cut
Manny
your mic.
Perez. Manny Perez. Oh, Chuck Washington was about ready to cry. Oh,
I hate that voice. Drives me crazy.
oh,
Just my beating sick.
If we go against Gavin Newsom, we'll all die. That wasn't the worst of it. So they're coming down to the final, it's coming down to about 4 o'clock, and they're down to the final debate. Kevin Jeffries asks CEO, Chief Executive Officer, which is the head guy that runs the daily operations at Riverside County, what's the scenario? Because it's bounced around. Well, maybe Newsom could withhold 50. Kevin was saying maybe 50 to 100 million, and if we go down this path, we're going to have to do this. Da, 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 da. So George Johnson steps up there and says, well, we could potentially lose $655 million. I mean, he's putting the scare tactics on like you wouldn't believe. This is what Jeff Hewitt had to say to George Johnson right after his comments or when he got a chance to speak.
Fear is a 4-letter word. What we just saw, and how dare you, George, do this? How dare you? And I'm being serious. The kind of numbers we first got when this pandemic came out, 2 million people were going to die in the United States. What does that do? That's enough fear to make everybody run and get into their house real quick. 655 million? If you think the governor is going to come anywhere close to having the legal right to take those DPSS funds away and stuff. I've got a bridge for you to buy, George, because you're going to be, you're going to be retired pretty soon anyway, and you might need that bridge. But I'm going to tell you what, that is absolutely ridiculous. You want me to make Don Kent come up with numbers right now on every month that is down, how much in gross domestic product this county loses? Should I ask him how many hundreds of thousands or millions and millions of dollars that families aren't bringing home because we accepted the crumb that's been given by this governor who changes his mind on a whim? Yeah. Really? How dare you do that? I can go along with the 38 million or whatever. Those are things that he probably can really do. And those are things that he would probably do only if we defied his order and we're staying within his parameters anyway. Why would he do that? Out of spite? Out of political will to try to squash us, to show us what we don't have any right to represent these people? Really? God, I mean, it doesn't take much, does it? No, your job is going to be very, very difficult because we're going to lose out on a whole lot of revenue based upon an economy that is crushed. Yes. And we're going to need those services so much more because especially after the unemployment gives out and after there's no more moratorium on evictions, we're going to have a whole lot of people waiting on our door wanting something. And the sooner we get back there now, what this does is we're going back in a safe way. We're telling the same things, to wear masks, to social distance, to go ahead and wash your hands all the time. But we decide that for the people that have grown weary of trusting anything coming out of the north.
There you go. There's one guy with guts. The other four are absolutely useless. Beyond useless. They only got a 3-2 vote to continue this to October 6th. Chuck Washington.
October 6th?
Chuck Washington and Manny Perez voted against that.
So then, now what?
You might as well forget. You think that I make this stuff up?
Sometimes.
This is what the evil is. This is your CEO, George Johnson, who's running the day-to-day operations. 4 of your supervisors in Riverside County and the rest of them to come up with this kind of crap. Again, if Newsom tried that, I would say bring it on because we're going to see who's going to win this fight. I would do the same thing. I'd withhold sales tax money and every ticket fine money, property tax and everything else. And like I say, where was Sheriff Chad Bianco? Nowhere to be seen. Sheriff Chad Bianco should deputize all 2.5 million of us, and we'll stand around this border. And if Newsom wants to withhold or come in here with his goon squads and anything, he's going to have to come through us. I'll be the first one standing on the front line with him. And I know a lot of you will. Screw them son of a blanks. They're useless as crap, from Newsom all the way down, Manny Perez and Chuck Washington especially, to sit up there blubbering about this stuff. No, we can't go against Gavin Newsom. I cannot believe it. This is beyond the pale. What happened there is they should have never backed off of what they did 4 months ago on that. They have just caused, as Jeff Hewitt said, not only just caused economic destruction, they have cost lives. They've caused far more damage than any slight benefit that ever could derive from anything they've done over COVID-19. And they continue to do it. And they ignored everybody that took time out of their day, and they jacked us around as hard as they could, especially Manny Perez, because he didn't like hearing. I did not hear one dissenting comment. Not one.
Back from him?
Of anybody supporting anything like Kevin Jeffries, Siegel, Washington, or Perez did. They were all backing what Jeff Hewitt did and more. They wanted the whole thing opened up, almost all of them. So Jeff Hewitt was trying to pull a compromise, and they wouldn't even go with that.
Mm. How many people would you say showed up today?
At least 100 spoke. And a lot of them
but
didn't.
How many showed up and didn't talk?
Oh, there was probably at least 100 that did not, there was name after name that was called that just couldn't stay for like myself. I mean, I got to speak at the front, but name after name that was called that couldn't speak.
Melissa writes in, I watched some of it today. What ended up happening? Do we know yet?
Yes, they punted it to October 6th, basically doing nothing of that. Chuck Washington and Manny Perez even voted against punting it to no October 6th. They said, whatever Lord Newsom says, we're going to support. All you down in Temecula and Murrieta, the supposedly center-right conservative that elected Chuck Washington, this is on your hands. You should be filing recall papers on him. You should have already had them filed. If you're going to put up with this crap, then I don't want to hear any more from any of you. He needs to go immediately, especially, and Manny Perez too. Kevin, known you a long time. Spiegel, you're hanging by a thread.
Hello. You feel better now? No, huh?
No, not really, but
You were turning red for a minute.
yes.
Switching gears, totally
yes.
get why you're pissed off. You have a bunch of people commenting in on YouTube and on Facebook saying that they saw your comment. They liked what you went up there and said. They're backing you. They're backing Jeff. So, I mean, that's always...
We need to come out in harder force until this madness stops.
Definitely. I agree, but we'll see. Speaking of madness, LAPD officers went on a pursuit with a man. They got a call on a disturbance caused by a man with a gun. They started following a white sedan northbound on the 110 freeway into the surface streets of Pasadena around 1:30, and this crazy accident happened. Are you ready?
Go
It happens
for it.
quick.
Go for it.
You got a visual on him, Hunter? Uh-oh.
Ooh.
Right there.
Well, that's
It-
that.
Doesn't seem
That's
like
that.
they were going too quick. Oh no, I did the ad. Get
That's it.
out of there.
Yeah, there you go. No, it was, yeah, that was a mean one. And that's the I mean, to run from the cops like that, it's bad enough you're putting your own life in danger.
Exactly, but this poor car, they don't know if there's any injuries. They haven't released that yet for either vehicles, but this poor I mean, who knows if there's children in there, where they were coming from. I mean, and you're still running after everything going on in the world. We're still running from the police officers. And then I can guarantee you that family is like, well, he didn't do it. It wasn't his fault.
Yeah. No, that's totally unconscionable doing stuff. I mean, I don't know what sort of disregard you have for other people to put their... Again, if you're putting your own life in danger, that's in my book, that's your right to do whatever. If you're putting someone else's life in danger, and they're, unnecessarily, that is the ultimate, or one of the ultimate acts of selfishness of doing something like that. I just get,
And there's a lot of police, I mean, to see them crash like that rarely happens, thank God, but I don't know. I was just shocked when I saw that. 1:30, I mean, kids could have been getting out of school. One benefit of this COVID thing, kids aren't in school.
Yes.
So we don't have to worry about that. But again, what if there was, a mom going to do a Walmart pickup and,
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't seem, luckily it didn't seem like they were going too fast, but from the air cam, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, a hit like that was a hard hit.
Oh, yeah. No, it was definitely a hard hit. But you know how sometimes they're on the side streets going like 100.
Right. No, yeah, it doesn't appear. Yeah, that would have been probably a lot worse than that. But anything like that, and it's really not. It's the differential speed, and we went through all that of a lot of the things that's going on. But most of those things are you don't think so, or you think that's that it's a minor. There are no minor crashes.
Right.
I can tell you that because I've been through a few of them, and they all wind up hurting. You might not say that, but they all pretty much wind up hurting you somewhere along the line of going on. And when you take it, that was a hard thump.
No, as you can see all the airbags deploy.
On
everywhere.
that. And thank God for that and hopefully nobody was seriously injured in that incident. of that. But yeah, it is good to show that because it will show, you know, if you're in, and most people aren't, but those of you who do get in that situation, you know,
But again, like, there's no way they saw it coming. I mean, well, most accidents obviously you don't see coming, but
right. You know, that's why I say the person that you, like you say, driving along, taking their kids somewhere or going to work or picking up errands or going to visit mom or something, and all of a sudden some yo-ho.
who's running from the cops with a gun runs into, and then what? Like, I wonder, I don't know. I feel for that family. I hope they get the help and the support they need, especially right now with everything being so tight. And I mean, what if they lost their job? I mean,
with everything really else going on, you know, most people are just barely making it by the, you know, as it is, and then to have something like that happen. I mean, we don't need any more tragedies going on than what our stupid politicians are inflicting on us, as we just experienced in Riverside County.
You know what I just realized?
What?
I titled our show Worked Up Wednesday, but today's Tuesday.
1 minute, guys. 1 minute.
Why did you correct me? Hi, Sean.
Hi, Stephanie.
Aw. Hey, today's Tuesday, just in case you didn't know.
Well, you could call. Should have been called Terrible Tuesday. I'd have went with that. I was so upset.
I'll go back and edit later.
I was so teed off. I didn't. It sounded good to me. I mean, that was the farthest thing from my. I didn't even. I'm usually pretty good on the days, but I mean, the whole thing that happened today was just like.
I know I was watching that, and there was some who's it on the site that was just, I mean, commenting on everybody. Oh, you idiots are out there without masks on. Oh my God, I wanted to just. Oh.
Yes. No, I don't even want to say what I want to do with Manny Perez after what he pulled. I mean, it's a good thing I left, because if I would have actually went up there, I think he would have.
All right, guys. Here we go.
$100,000 bail mark on
IE.com and download your free phone app today.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
Fixing the panel.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday on the 1490 KMET, broadcasting all across the Inland Empire, joining our vast audience who's been listening to the first half hour on YouTube and Facebook on IE Newswire. Go check us out. Again, most y'all, even if you're joining us on KMET, go look up IE Newswire and go watch our first 5-minute segment or so. That's the first thing we fire up on. It's totally different. It's unique. I think it's funny. It's totally out of character for what we do with the show.
It's great.
But I think it's some of the best segments we do, and we need a little joy for what's going on. And today we played the funeral procession for firefighter Charles Morton, who lost his life in the El Dorado fire on that earlier of that. We went through the whole, and we saw the car chase that ended in a traffic accident. You know, the car chaser running a red light and hitting some poor innocent victim.
In Pasadena.
Yeah,
today
in Pasadena
at 1:30.
on that. You know, don't run from the cops and endanger other people's lives. And then the aforementioned, we all went with and we're going to talk to Kelly Victory here in a minute or two on that. But Jeff Hewitt had a proposal on the table to start reopening up, accelerate, actually returning us to where we were before March, before all this COVID madness started. And basically the whole thing was a ruse. Manny Perez got his butt hurt because people were not supporting his position and that we should stay with Gavin Newsom. They were reiterating the stories of the teenagers who have hung themselves. The person who was working for a guy out here who jumped off a bridge, and the devastation of lives and everything, and all the BS we've been enduring, and they all basically whiffed. And we played the clip. If you didn't, the second thing is go back and watch the Jeff Hewitt clip as he calls out CEO George Johnson saying, well, we could lose $655 million, and most everybody on Department of Public Services we would lose $400 million, and we wouldn't have no money, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. This is absolutely incredulous of what's going on in not only our country, our state, but in Riverside County today. It's absolutely unconscionable. It's tragic how they could sit up there with all the stuff that's went on with COVID, all the misinformation, the lies, and everything else, and still 4 of them, Kevin Jeffries, Karen Spiegel, Manny Perez, and Chuck Washington still say, oh, we're afraid of Gavin Newsom. If we do anything, Gavin Newsom might be upset, and we will all die because we are totally dependent on Gavin Newsom. That's basically what they said. They punted Jeff Hewitt's compromise of returning back to the way we were in March. They punted it down to October 6th, and only Karen Spiegel and Kevin Jeffries supported him. Manny Perez and Chuck Washington said no to that. On top of that, I'm about ready to explode, so I'm going to bring on our guest that we've had on for a long time now to address this and all, because this is all COVID related, and she's been our main expert on that. She's been a trauma surgeon, consultant to many corporations and on and on. You can see I can't even talk straight because I'm about ready to blow my stack on this whole thing. Welcome to Newswire with Steph Roy, Dr. Kelly Victory.
Hey, guys. It's great to be back with you, as always. I share your frustration, Roy. Sometimes I feel like my head's going to explode when I listen to the news. I just don't understand the behavior of a lot of our elected and appointed officials during this whole thing. And unfortunately, we're getting further and further into the year. I mean, let's face it, we're backing up now to the big holidays coming up. And if we don't get out of this mess pretty dang soon, I'm not sure what the next year is going to hold for us.
That was what one of the speakers brought that up. There was over 100 speakers and probably over 5 hours of testimony again today. Not one dissent of, and most people were saying, open the whole darn thing. We're tired of this whole thing. Can the whole enchilada of that. But one of the speakers he said, I have a business. He said, I'm barely hanging on by a thread. Holiday season's coming up. And if you're in a lot of retail businesses, this is your time that you either make it or break it from now till Christmas time. And he said, we're closed. Walmart and Amazon are booming like crazy, but you got our thumb on our, you got our knee on our neck.
Right. Well, and I think part of the problem is clearly that these elected officials, I don't care who, if you're talking about, Warden Newsom or fake Dr. Barbara Ferrer, it's hard. What they lack is any shred of empathy. They simply are not capable, apparently, of understanding the true abject pain and suffering that's going on amongst regular Americans, because let's face it, those people are continuing to get their paychecks. They aren't worrying about how they're going to pay their rent, how they're going to pay back the loan they took out to open their small business, how they're going to, feed their children, sort of simple everyday worries that Americans are really facing right now. And I have said from the very start, as you know, I am not a naysayer. I'm not saying that this virus is a hoax, or that it isn't real, or that some people haven't gotten very ill from it. But we really have lost sight, or they have lost sight, of how profound the impact is to the whole of society by the things they are doing. It is so far out of proportion to the actual risk to the average individual from COVID-19 as to be preposterous. The damage that's being done is just really almost becoming insurmountable. And when you look at a country like Sweden, I hate to keep bringing them up, but look at Sweden. They are absolutely proof that you do not need to leave a, gaping, smoking crater where your economy used to be in order to get back to some semblance of normal. There are many, many countries now. Japan is the same. There are countries all around the globe that have where COVID has essentially, petered out. It's not a big deal. And those countries are up and running without the kind of devastation that we are facing here.
You want to go back, and if you look on YouTube, Newswire, that and about 15 minutes in, Kevin Jeffries asked, well, what kind of economic impact, because it was kind of bannered around, well, maybe Newsom could withhold $50 to $100 million, we could do that. CEO of Riverside County, George Johnson, came up and said, we could potentially lose $655 million, $400 million from Department of Public Services, and on. Public safety, cops, firefighters, everything else. And Jeff Hewitt called him out and said it was unconscionable for you to do that. He said there is no way Newsom is going to go that far on top of that. And in my feeling, if he did, and I've called for it, open this county up. I said, Sheriff Chad Bianco, deputize all 2.5 million of us. You got to come through us. If you want to counter that, you want to play that game, Newsom, we'll withhold property tax money, sales tax money, fine money, court money, anything else. You want to play hardball, you're going to have to come up with us. And you know what? Your goon squads ain't coming in. Our businesses are open. Screw you. That's what I would do.
Well, I do think there comes a point where just the masses, they can't arrest everybody. I have never encouraged people to defy the law or to break mandates, but I'm getting darn close to that. And the reason I say that, Roy, is because it's one thing if I believed that there was a shred of science behind any of this. If I believed that we were truly doing the right thing by the population, by doing things like social distancing and wearing masks and keeping storefronts closed, shutting down bars and restaurants and all of these things. But I simply don't believe that, and I don't believe that the science is behind it. When you look at places that have fully reopened, that are sending their kids back to school in person without masks, without plexiglass shields, without social distancing. When you look at the places where bars and restaurants are reopened, take Florida, for example, they simply are not seeing a spike in anything that matters. And by that, what I mean is hospitalizations, people getting sick. I don't care a rip about how many cases, quote unquote, you can log in your little book. It only matters to me if people are becoming ill. And we know even, nationally, across the nation, cases are down 42%. ICU admissions are down 61%. And deaths overall from COVID are down 30%. And despite all of that great news, instead we have places like California that are continuing just to decimate the economy. And the amount of, this isn't a matter of an inconvenience to people. This isn't a matter of saying, just sacrifice for your fellow man and wear a mask. We are destroying people's livelihoods.
Yes, Stephanie.
No, I can agree with you more. For sure. I wish they would open it back up soon, though, because it's just, I don't I'm like at a loss of words. Like, I feel like we're in like a rabbit hole. Because I wish they would open up soon. When are they going to open up? Are they going to open up soon?
I lost your audio.
Well, they just keep going back and forth. A couple of places, Orange County, I think, was going to level orange, and some places were going from purple to red, and other places were going from red back to purple. How can you run a business when every 15 minutes the guidelines change? We're at 25% capacity. Oh, yeah, great. We're at 50% tomorrow. Nope, now we're back to 25%. Oh, nail salons are open, and then they're shut. Then they're open, then they're shut. How in the world, if you are a business owner, can you staff? Can you keep employees, engaged and showing up to work? The airline industry, I think American Airlines just laid off another, thousands of employees. So if they all of a sudden decide that air traffic is fully opened again and people start traveling again, it's not like the airlines can just turn around and say, oh, whoops, come on back, folks. We didn't mean to lay you off. We actually need you now. And how do people make plans for the holidays, for example? How do you make a decision about whether or not you are going to travel at Thanksgiving or Christmas? They've already essentially canceled Halloween. The only reason that's important is because the next holiday down the pike is Thanksgiving, right around the corner. Now, where people don't travel for Halloween, they sure as heck travel for Thanksgiving and make plans. So how in the world do you do that? I live, when I'm not in California, in a ski resort town. How does a ski resort plan for the season if they don't know if they'll even be allowed to open the mountain? How do they get employees here that, they bring in thousands and thousands of employees seasonally every year to run this place? How can you do that if you simply don't know for, more than a day or a week at a time whether or not you're going to be allowed to open? So I think there's just been an incredible lack of insight on the part of people in the governorships in many of these states, not only in California, but in places like Colorado and others that just are a mess. And I feel so badly for small business owners, but honestly, the trickle down is going to, impact all of us.
And again, I just can't wrap my head around how you could be so unfeeling or unconsiderate about anybody, sans Jeff Hewitt up there, from the executive staff that mealy-mouthed this whole thing to the other supervisors who danced all around this. They acted like, well, we want to do something, but when it come time to doing anything, they basically did either nothing or kick the can down the road after 6 months of this. Well, as you said, and many others have said, there's nothing at this point. How do you... it's just, I don't even know how to explain it.
I had the same feeling.
Yes. Even I'm getting at a loss for words on this thing, which is almost impossible.
Well, they've known for a long time, for example, and I said when they started dangling it out there, oh, well, we just have to wait for a vaccine. Well, lo and behold, we are likely, I don't think it's wise, but they are likely to launch a vaccine program in the relatively near future. If not before the election, then probably before the end of the year, we're going to start seeing some vaccines. The issue is that was never going to be able to change things. It won't change things. We are never going to get mass acceptance of the vaccine, and it's not going to change anything. So they keep dangling out, what's the next carrot? Oh, if we can just get to this point, we're going to decrease hospitalizations. Well, we did that. We did that months ago. Remember, that's what the whole flatten the curve thing was about. Make sure we don't overwhelm the healthcare system. Well, after we did that, then it's, we need to decrease the number of cases. Then, we need to wait for the vaccine. Now they just keep changing the goalpost. I feel like I'm living in the proverbial, Charlie Brown and Lucy in the football. They just keep, pulling the football out. And you fall flat on your back over and over again. And again, I would just implore people to look at the facts, which is that outside of New York City and the tri-state area, this has been largely a nursing home problem. The median age of people who have died from COVID is 78 years old. Now, that is not to say that makes those deaths less tragic, but the reality is this is a disease, this is an illness that has profoundly impacted people who were already ill, elderly and ill. It's not wiping out, 78-year-olds who are healthy, by the way. The 78-year-olds who live commonly in Southern California, riding their bikes, playing golf, out there hiking every day, those aren't the folks who are getting ill with it. It's people who are in those older decades who also are diabetic and obese and have heart disease, have underlying asthma, and who are infirm otherwise. And so we know who the people are. The fact that we have had, done these mitigation schemes, put in place sort of these different programs, from social distancing to lockdowns, that have profoundly impacted precisely the people who are not at risk. Young, healthy, working people and kids who are trying to get a dang education.
The Charlie Brown Lucy football analogy is no more. I mean, that's the best example of what's going on, because and I think Jeff Hewitt and a lot of others mentioned the same thing. It doesn't matter what we do or what happens. You just keep changing the goalposts. Or as soon as looks like we're getting up there and ready to kick the football, it gets pulled away from us. And then a whole new set of rules or regulations or this or that keep coming on. When all this is doing is prolonging this and doing more damage. And as he said, teenagers are hanging themselves. People are jumping off of bridges, on top of the health damage of people not going to the hospital and everything else, and they're like oblivious to this.
No, and honestly, I get calls or emails and texts on a daily basis from people around the country who are really telling me horrible stories about people who are just suffering from overwhelming anxiety, depression, substance abuse. As you well know, suicides are up exponentially. I think there's no group that's had a worse toll taken upon it than the elderly, people who are in nursing homes, assisted living facilities, who have not been able to see their families. You're talking about people who have spent months now living in isolation, and these may be the last months they have on this green earth. You're talking about people, when somebody's in their 80s or 90s, to keep that person isolated and away from family and friends, unable to see or have the physical touch of the people they love, I think is beyond inhumane. We wouldn't do it to a dog. The idea that we are doing it to our elderly is really unconscionable. And I think that history will look back on us very, very harshly. I think this is going to go down in history as one of the worst public health debacles of all time. And it certainly at this point ranks up there as number one. I have never seen in my entire career in medicine and in public health something that has been handled this poorly.
I couldn't agree
more.
Yes.
You have no idea.
Working in stereo here on that. I mean, you summed it up very well on what's going on here, because I don't know how, again, I think I really sense, and I mean, when we were there 3 or 4 months ago and the big crowd showed up, you could sense the frustration of that. But I mean, you could almost just see the tired look in people's eyes, like they're just so stressed out over this thing of that, and they do, and now they're not seeing any end in sight. Now, desperate people can do desperate things, and that's what I'm really afraid of.
Oh, I agree with you, but I absolutely agree. And honestly, if I were at the helm, I would, or if I even could bend, Donald Trump's ear for 30 minutes, I would say, let's look at what we are doing here. You have taken something like, we have tried and true medications that we know can treat this thing. Okay, because one way to get out of the lockdown madness is to say, look, we have effective treatments for people who get this, namely hydroxychloroquine, for example. Hydroxychloroquine and zinc, been around for 65 years. The continuation of politicizing that and making it so hard to get, so you're going to politicize something that's been around for 65 years, but we're going to fast track a vaccine, Operation Warp Speed a vaccine out to the public. So you don't trust something that's been around for 6.5 decades, but we're supposed to trust now a vaccine. Now, I am pro-vaccine in general, but I look at this and say, you realize you are looking past some of the things that could get us out of this mess in favor of something that may or may not work when and if you can get people lined up to even take it. I mean, it defies logic in a way that is almost so, it is so rudimentary that I think you have no understanding at all of healthcare, about healthcare, and I just can't understand how people like Fauci and Birx and Dr. Redfield can really, look themselves in the face in the mirror and say, wow, we are really screwing this thing up. Because there's a way out of this. Most places should simply reopen. The idea that children are not in school full-time, face-to-face, is ridiculous. There's absolutely, essentially a zero risk to children. There are some kids who could get it and could become ill with it, but we know who those kids are. Those are those same kids, that handful of children who have significant underlying diseases. Otherwise, children simply are not at risk from this. Furthermore, we know, despite what, all the, screeching about it, we know that children simply don't spread this. We've watched it across the globe. They haven't spread it in any other country. Why would they be spreading it in the United States? And the answer is they don't. So get kids back to school so that their parents can even think about getting back to work. We can try to open up, most of the economy, and then take whatever measures we need to take to protect that relatively small, very small group of people who are actually at significant risk.
All I can say at this point is just thank you, Dr. Kelly.
Well, I tell you, I feel like I'm, I appreciate being on with you guys, and it gives me some hope that maybe somebody's listening. But I'll tell you right now, you feel like you're banging your head against the proverbial wall.
Exactly.
And my head's starting to hurt. We'll do it again next week. Thanks for being on.
Sounds great.
Thanks,
Stay
Dr.
well.
Kelly.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's exactly how I feel right now. It's like That's
how I am too. When you threw it, I'm just like
you're beating your head against the wall and you just can't stop. It's like it just never ends. I mean, what?
But do you think maybe that's their plan? Like, I'm exhausted. I can't even talk about it. My mind does not want to work. I mean, I got a lot going on in my personal life too. But
I that's the strategy, in my opinion, is they're just trying to outlast us, and I think that's why they were a little teed off, because the group showed back up again in force over this. They were probably thinking, oh well, maybe a couple of Roy and Allie and a couple of these Mercedes and a couple of these nutcases will show up, and that'll be it. And yada. No. They saw the real, and I hope you get her on. I don't know. I think I walked off with or without getting her contact information. But the salon owner in Corona, I talked to her, and she said she would come on.
Oh, cool.
That's defying the orders of that and everything. And yeah, she with many others are there. And again, it's this is not an isolated incident. It cannot be coincidental or something when this many people keep consistently showing up.
Right.
And
no, I think I think they're tired of it, but at the same time, I think people are just lost. Like I've always said, I don't think people know where to start. Like, where do you begin to wanting to see change? Really quick, Stephanie writes in, can we recall our supervisors?
Yes. Chuck Washington, Manny Perez should be first on the list, and Kevin Jeffries and Karen Spiegel are hanging by a thread.
But we love Jeff Hewitt.
Yes. Jeff Hewitt.
Because he's honest.
Yeah, he's the only... Yeah.
I think that's where I'm confused. He's honest. He's true, he's real.
Yeah.
Why aren't the rest of them?
That's so unusual about a politician. And I think that's why a lot of people can't take Trump, is because he is. I mean, like I said,
most politicians are fake? Oh my God, I'm such a rookie. I'm a rookie, people.
So are most of the executive staff and things that run all of our governments. And they just proved it again today. But what George Johnson said was, the scare tactics were beyond the pale. Some of the worst I've ever seen. Over the top. I don't know. I mean, just...
Well, that hour went by quick. Maybe tomorrow we'll have the right day, and my mic will be on. Probably not on the last one, though.
Until the real... What was it? Wednesday?
Until the what? I don't know.
Whatever it was, Wednesday.
We'll see you tomorrow.